Welcome to the official channel of Sheikh Hamdan, where emotions are clothed in words and verses are woven from the strands of truth and love. Today's poem unearths a deeply emotional tribute, a poetic confession whispered between fate and the heart. This is more than just a message, it is a revelation of how love can be timeless, how age can be strength, and how a woman older than the prince became the harbor of his soul. Here, Sheikh Hamdan speaks not from a throne but from the core of his being, to the woman whose maturity calmed his storm. Your age was never a number to me, it was my compass when I lost direction. In a world full of fleeting affection and shallow admirers, you were wisdom wrapped in silence, patience cloaked in grace. While many were distracted by youth, I stood still, captivated by the history in your eyes, the steadiness of your presence. You never tried to shine, instead, you became my lighthouse in a sea of roaring expectations. I never needed rescue. I needed grounding. And you, my queen, became my anchor. While others chased illusions, I fell for your truths. You knew when to speak and when silence would carry more power. Your laughter was not wild, but refined, every smile you gave me was earned, and that made it more valuable than gold. You weren't the kind to fall quickly. You stood tall, studied me, understood me, and that made your love a fortress, one I was proud to enter, never afraid to be vulnerable within. Every wrinkle you tried to hide, I kissed with honor. Because each line told the story of a woman who lived, not just existed. People whispered. They said I could have chosen someone younger, someone more fitting for a prince. But I didn't want fitting. I wanted destined. I wanted someone who wouldn't be dazzled by my crown but would challenge the man underneath it. You were that woman. You saw me, not as Sheikh Hamdan the royal, but as a man who needed to be held without fear, who needed a woman who had lived enough to know how to love completely. And in your arms, I found that rarest form of royalty, peace. There were days I questioned everything around me, titles, obligations, appearances, but never once did I question you. Your wisdom was my serenity. You were the older woman who turned my boyhood into manhood, who didn't compete with my youth but balanced it. You made me realize that love doesn't shout in the streets or flash on screens. It is soft, steady, and enduring like yours. You slowed down time when I was racing ahead, and because of you, I now value every heartbeat. I remember the nights we sat under the stars, you reading old poetry and I just watching you. The world didn't see you, but I did. A queen without a crown, royal in dignity, loyal in silence. Every time I faltered, your words brought me back to clarity. You were never intimidated by my power. You reminded me that power means nothing without love. And every moment I spent with you added substance to my spirit, something no title, no lineage could ever teach me. I fell in love with your resilience. I watched how you faced your past and didn't let it define you. You taught me how to own pain, not hide it. You reminded me that a woman's strength is not in how loud she speaks, but in how gracefully she walks through fire. You had already lived storms that I was only beginning to understand. And that experience became my shield. When others gave me luxury, you gave me legacy, the wisdom of being loved by a woman who had nothing to prove and everything to give. You never needed validation. And that made me admire you more. I've been surrounded by admiration all my life, but you offered something rarer, insight. You saw through me, past the shine, past the throne, straight into my soul. You healed wounds I didn't know I carried. Your age gave you the patience to wait while I figured things out, and the strength to walk beside me even when I was afraid of the path. And now, I only wish the world could see what I see when I look at you. You were never a phase or a fantasy. You were the foundation. My poems may carry your name in secret, but your impact echoes in every verse I write. When I speak of loyalty, of depth, of quiet love, I speak of you. I chose you not in rebellion but in reverence. Because your age wasn't a barrier, it was the bridge that connected my broken pieces to a whole heart. In you, I discovered that sometimes the greatest love comes not from what's easy or expected, but from what's eternal. Even when I faltered in courage, you never demanded. You waited. Even when I hid behind duty, you didn't pressure. You protected me in silence. My dear, your love wasn't loud, but it was life-changing. Now the world may think I was supposed to choose differently, but I made the only choice that ever felt right, you. The woman whose age made her a crown of grace, whose wisdom became my guide. I don't want a love that fades. I want a love that anchors. And that was always you. I pen this with honor, for the woman who saved me without saving herself. Who loved me without conditions. Your age never scared me, it saved me. If love is a journey, you are my destination. And if I had to do it all again, I'd still walk past every glittering illusion and fall at your feet. Because your hands, your mind, your years, they built a palace inside my heart. And in that palace, my queen, you will forever reign. Let the world know this truth, not because I owe an explanation, but because love like yours deserves to be celebrated. You are the calm to my chaos, the wisdom to my ambition, the depth to my desire. You, the older woman they judged in whispers, are the eternal love I will scream in poetry until my final breath. This poem is yours, because your age was not a shadow I walked under, but in the following days, Hamdan dedicated a new poem to her, one he performed live for the first time before an audience. It was called, Your Age Was My Anchor. With every line, the crowd wept, clapped, and stood in awe. He spoke of her silver strands like moonlight ribbons, her calm like ancient waters, her wisdom like scripture. He declared, she didn't steal my youth. She gave it meaning. She didn't stop time. She taught me how to make it eternal. In the solitude of my palace, where golden walls echo with silence, I often close my eyes and return to the moments when you first held my trembling heart. You didn't reach for it with haste, but with reverence, like someone holding an ancient relic. And that's exactly what my heart was, weathered by expectations, bruised by pretenses. You never treated it as a conquest but as a companion. The world often sees me as untouchable, but you knew how to touch my soul without leaving scars. That is why I return to you, again and again, through memory and verse. I remember the first time I saw tears in your eyes. They weren't tears of weakness but of unspoken strength. You cried not because you were broken, but because you loved me with a depth I had never earned. In your eyes, I saw oceans of sacrifice, rivers of longing, and silent prayers that had my name etched in them. And I knew, then and there, that no kingdom I ruled would ever compare to the kingdom I found in your heart. You loved not like a girl dreaming of fairy tales, but like a woman who had written her own. When I fell, you didn't rush to lift me, you waited. You allowed me to find my footing while your presence reminded me that I wasn't alone. That patience, that grace, how could I ever look at another and not be haunted by the way you made love feel like a sanctuary? Others may speak of passion, of grand gestures, of fleeting highs. But your love was a storm that left me cleansed, not destroyed. You didn't just teach me love. You taught me how to endure it. They said I was foolish for choosing someone with years ahead of me already written. But how could I not fall for the one who knew how to read my silences? Who looked at my anger and saw my fear? You didn't try to change me, you gave me room to grow. And when I outgrew parts of myself, you never once resented me for evolving, you celebrated it, even when it meant waiting for me to return from my own battles. That is a love only maturity knows how to give. You never compared yourself to the women around me, you never needed to. Because your beauty wasn't in trends or youth, but in truth. When you walked into a room, you carried with you a stillness that commanded more attention than any glittering dress or painted smile. You were soft in all the ways I needed, and strong in all the ways I lacked. And when I doubted myself, you reminded me of the boy I was before the world gave me a crown and took away my simplicity. With you, I learned that love isn't always loud. It's in the way you waited for my texts without chasing me, in the way you cooked meals I didn't ask for, in the way you learned the poetry I loved just to understand my language. It's in the way you never tried to be noticed yet always stood out in every crowd of my mind. Every little act you gave was a verse in the poem of our love. And now, every time I write, I'm just trying to stitch your essence into the canvas of eternity. I kept our love private not because I was ashamed, but because it was sacred. You weren't a secret, I just wanted you to be mine before the world had a chance to misunderstand you. They wouldn't see your sleepless nights, your silent support, your unwavering belief in me. They would only see what they want to see, age, contrast, confusion. But I saw the truth. And now, I choose to share it, not to justify my love, but to honor yours. When duty called me away, your letters kept me warm. I could hear your voice between the lines, feel your touch in every inked curve of your writing. You never complained, never doubted, never pulled me down with expectations. Instead, you held me with words that reminded me why I kept fighting. You weren't just a lover, you were my muse, my prayer, my quiet redemption. And when my world turned cold, your voice became my fire. You never asked me to promise the impossible. You only ever asked me to be honest. And that honesty became the bridge between two worlds, the royal and the real. I crossed that bridge every night just to hear you say my name the way no one else could. With you, I wasn't a ruler, I was a man, and that, my queen, is the greatest gift you ever gave me. You didn't make me fall in love, you made me rise in love. I want to build a future with you that defies tradition. A future that makes history question its own rules. I want our story to be whispered in the halls of this palace long after we're gone. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was brave. A love story that began not in youth's illusion, but in wisdom's embrace. And if I must fight for it, so be it. Because your love is not something I stumbled into. It is something I fought to keep. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them write headlines and ask questions. I have my answers. And every answer points back to you. In your arms, I found my truest self. In your laughter, I heard music meant for my ears alone. In your quiet strength, I found the peace I searched for in kingdoms. If I had the world to choose from, I'd still choose you, again, again, and again. So tonight, under the same stars that once bore witness to our earliest conversations, I write this final stanza of truth. You are my eternal companion, my unexpected miracle. And though the world may measure us by age, I measure you by depth. You, the woman whose past shaped my future. You, the older woman who taught a young prince how to truly love. Your age was never a burden, it was the anchor that kept me from drifting into the